All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking an ancient Japanese framework that's basically designed to take your discipline from, well, fragile to absolutely unbreakable. We're talking about the 100-day Gaman Protocol. And look, Gaman isn't just about toughing it out. In Japanese culture, it's this incredibly powerful concept of enduring the seemingly unbearable, but doing it with so much grace and dignity that you literally intimidate weakness itself. It's a complete rewiring of how your brain processes hardship. So let's break down exactly how this whole thing works. Have you ever met someone who just doesn't break? Like, no matter how exhausted they are or how much goes sideways, they just keep showing up. We've all been on the other side of that, right? Making these massive, ambitious promises on a Monday, riding high on motivation, and then finding 1,000 completely logical excuses to quit by Wednesday. The truth is, when life gets uncomfortable, if your discipline is built purely on motivation, it's going to crumble. That right there is a mental foundation built on sand. And this stark contrast really hits the nail on the head. Most of us are living in this state of autopilot willpower. We make a promise, we inevitably find an excuse, and then we negotiate with our goals. You know the drill. I'll do it tomorrow, or I'm just way too tired today. But the Gaman Protocol, it demands something totally different. It demands intimidating consistency. It literally kills off that part of your brain that tries to negotiate with your goals. You're no longer relying on whether you feel like doing the work. You're just executing a non-negotiable standard. To see how this actually rewires your brain in real time, we're going to follow the journey of a pretty normal, admittedly fragile guy named Leo. Leo was totally stuck in that cycle of strong intentions, but really weak execution. So we're tracking his exact 100-day journey to see exactly when he had to pull out each of the 5 core pillars of Gaman just to survive. Because, spoiler alert, the road from day 1 to day 100, it is not a smooth ride. Okay, let's start at day 1. Leo kicks things off with the first pillar, Ketsui. And fair warning, your ego is going to absolutely hate this one. Ketsui is the public oath. Let's be real, private promises are way too easy to break because, well, nobody's watching you fail. But Leo, he stood right in front of his friends and family and made this definitive, very public declaration. He said, "I am a person who does this specific training every single day for 100 days. He didn't say he was going to try. He laid it out as a hard fact about his new identity. What's super fascinating here is the science backing this up. Harvard neuroscience data actually proves why Ketsui works so incredibly well. See, our brains are basically ancient survival machines. When you make a commitment public, your primitive brain looks at failing that commitment as a massive threat to your social standing. And to that ancient brain of ours, losing standing in the tribe literally feels like life or death. So suddenly, the pain of looking like a total flake to your tribe becomes way worse than the temporary pain of just getting up and doing the work. Right, so with the public oath locked in, Leo moves to the second pillar, rewires. This translates to an unchanging rhythm. Think about it. How much mental energy do you burn every single day just deciding when you're going to do something? That back and forth burns precious mental glucose. So Leo locked in a completely non-negotiable 5 a.m. start time. And it wasn't because he was some morning person. It was specifically to remove time as a variable altogether. When the clock hits 5 a.m., the debate is already over. Now, let's fast forward a bit to day 45, because as we all know, life honestly doesn't care about your perfect 100-day plan. On day 45, Leo gets hit with a really bad fever. And this right here is the exact moment where 99% of people throw in the towel. They bump into that all-or-nothing lie. They think, well, I'm sick, I obviously can't do my full, intense workout, so I guess I'll just do nothing. And boom, the chain breaks. But here's the crucial part. How did Leo survive this massive breaking point? Standing right on the edge of just quitting entirely, he activated the third pillar, muku. Muku means practice without gaps. So instead of throwing his hands up and surrendering to the fever, Leo just executed a vastly reduced version of his habit. He literally did just 5 minutes of very light movement. That is it. It wasn't about the physical gains of those 5 minutes. It was about stopping his brain from realizing that quitting was even on the table. He didn't break the chain, which meant his brain couldn't start renegotiating the habit the very next day. I love this analogy from the source material. Think of it like this. A river might become a tiny trickle during a bad drought, but it never actually stops flowing. Because the moment it stops, it's just a hole in the ground. When you hit a drought, whether it's an illness, a crazy day at work, some kind of crisis, you have to let your habit become a trickle. Do 2 push-ups, read just 1 page, meditate for literally 60 seconds. Keep the momentum alive. You do whatever it takes to avoid becoming a hole in the ground. So Leo survives the fever thanks to Muku, and he just keeps pushing. He pushes right through the robotic, repetitive boredom of this daily routine, building up this undeniable momentum until he hits a massive psychological and neurological breakthrough right around day 66. To actually reach that breakthrough, he had to rely heavily on the fourth pillar, kata, which means perfect form. Now, the whole fitness and self-help world loves to sell us this lie that variety is the spice of life, right? That changing things up keeps you engaged. But in the Gaman Protocol, variety is exactly where discipline goes to die. By sticking strictly to kata, doing the exact same movements in the exact same order every single day, Leo stopped cracks from forming in his routine. He completely eliminated those micro decisions where old, lazy habits usually manage to leak back in. And sticking so rigidly to that kata is exactly what makes day 66 such a magic number. There's this renowned Kyoto University study that actually pinpointed 66 days as the critical window for habit automation. Because Leo hadn't changed up his routine, and because he hadn't broken the chain, right around day 66, his brain's basal ganglia just fully took over. The whole behavior became as automatic as breathing. He entered this flow state that the Japanese call mind of void, where his body was already executing the routine before his conscious, complaining mind even had a chance to wake up and protest.
But wait, we have to pause here and ask a really critical question. How did Leo know exactly what to do when that fever hit back on day 45 without going into a total panic? Well, he used the fifth and final pillar, which acts as this ultimate safety net. It's called Zini. Zini is prior preparation. It's the relentless act of anticipating every single potential derailment and completely pre-deciding your exact response well before the crisis ever actually happens.
Check this out. Before day 1 even started, Leo sat down and mapped out an exact playbook. High fever? He had already written down reduced 5-minute version. Got a sudden business trip? Hotel room kata. Bad weather? Indoor routine. So when life inevitably went sideways, he didn't have to summon up this immense willpower or try to figure things out on the fly. He just looked at his chart and executed the pre-decided action. No negotiation. And the impact of doing this simple preparation is honestly staggering. A behavioral psychology study out of Yale found that this specific act, pre-deciding your actions for obstacles, can increase your success rate by up to 300%. Why? Because in a moment of stress or exhaustion, your willpower reserves are completely shot. Zenny means you aren't relying on willpower when things get hard. You're just following a set of instructions that you wrote for yourself when you were actually thinking clearly. By following this entire framework, by the time Leo finally hit day 100, something profound had shifted. His friends even started noticing a change. They actually called his consistency scary. And yeah, it was scary, because to them, it looked superhuman. But for Leo, he had just completely eliminated the option of failure from his mental vocabulary. It just wasn't a thing anymore. He didn't just cross 100 days off a calendar or finish some trendy internet challenge. The Gaman Protocol is so much deeper than that. Through Ketsui, Muku, Kata, and Zenni, Leo effectively sacrificed the weak, negotiating version of himself. He let that fragile identity burn completely away so that, fundamentally, a warrior could be born. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to stop trying and start becoming? Because look, just knowing about Gaman doesn't do anything unless you actually act on it. So here is your challenge for today. Pick just one habit, make your public oath, and ask yourself, what actually happens when you decide to become the person who never ever creates a